Hello my friends, let's start from this one. The last night Ukraine launched one of the most massive strikes on Russia. Lots of the drones, lots of the missiles. Yeah, this is Ukraine. Drones went to Crimea, also Krasnodar, Rostov, Belgorod Oblast, even reaching Saratov refinery. We have also evidence about some CERN kabooms in this place. Это пиздец means this is fantastic. The special military operation. Wow, I like it so much. Some translation from Russian to English for you. Yeah guys, again it is a Saratov Novokuybishevsk refinery that was hit for the second day consecutive. And yeah, Russians intercepted one of the drones right into their buildings. Happens. But no worries, no one was really hurt, just minor damages. If you was really worried, well, refinery itself, it was hit. What is interesting that even Chechnya Grozny was hit, those are the barracks for Kadyrov's army. Nice. For this mission alone, drones traveled 850 kilometers at least. And Kadyrov himself already promised the revenge for this attack. Well, he's still alive, it's kind of interesting. There are lots of the rumors about his bad health condition, but still, as we may see, he's managing a republic. By the way, the same threats for revenge or for something were from Kadyrov even before. Then Ukraine attacked the same place. I think it was spring this year, then Kadyrov was really mad, but what can he do, yeah? Russia is already doing maximum in Ukraine what they can do with conventional forces. And Ahmad army, usually it's behind the front lines. And this is the Belgorod region. Some of the local substations and power plants are reported to got fire. Why? How? Who knows? And this is Crimea, reports about the operation of the air defense. Guys, unfortunately, there's not much information coming. I mean, not many videos from the last night, especially from Crimea, because of the censorship. Also, Russia shut down the internet in bordering regions with Ukraine, so it's really hard to get the current information of what is happening. I'll wait for some time to show you more details. Nevertheless, kabooms happened, and also, as it was reported, Ukraine used some of the missiles probably on refinery. My friends, in this video we're also gonna speak about the situation on the front lines and political news around Ukraine, and not only, and some other news. So bear with me, let's go. And let's continue with the front lines. There is the update coming from Gulaipole. Russia continued to bomb this place a lot, and for the last 24 hours the Russian army moved closer to Gulaipole. Well, yesterday some of the analytics spread disinformation about Russian army presence in Gulaipole, and some of the even pro-Ukrainian channels over-exaggerated that Ukraine nearly lost Gulaipole, and just because of some outstanding action Gulaipole was saved. No, it's not like that, even close. Gulaipole is still fully under Ukrainian control for now, by the time I'm recording this video. The problem goes for the Russian aviation gliding bombs, and definitely close presence of the Russian soldiers. They already launched their drones on this settlement. And this is the detailed update. So Russia is moving north from Gulaipole. They also went forward from Zeleny High. They fully occupied this small settlement. The maps I take from the Mayakovsk analytic. The link for his Twitter you might find in the video description right below. He is a very good asserts. He usually publishes the very detailed map information. So this is his map where you may click on every sort of the data. Like for example, this vehicle is something new, and there is the reference for original source. Here we have the confirmation that this vehicle definitely was hit by a Russian drone. Happened at the entrance to Gulaipole, so Russians operate with everything, except infantry of course. Now let's zoom into Pokrovsk direction, where Russia sent its vehicles, which were kaputted on the way or inside Pokrovsk itself. Just yesterday I told you about this place. Well, it was confirmed that it was definitely the Russian tank here, and we have one more Russian tank. Somehow they think that it's kind of profitable to send tanks. Then de facto it's not the place where you may use the tanks effectively. I mean, maybe cover them just like that and use as the turrets. Well, this tank was hit by drone, so completely gone. It was hit several times, no go. And here it was one more Russian vehicle, BTR. Also on Telegram the image is available. Yeah, this is definitely the Russian BTR-82A. We have also the confirmation from the aerial drone, and it's no go confirmed. So it really tells that Russia is very serious in sending the heavy armed forces to Pokrovsk itself. But just 2 months ago, Russia withdrew some of the brigades and they sent those to this direction, Novohatska. This is Kamar direction. By the way, for the last 24 hours, Russia moved a little towards Ivanivka and even caused some of the losses for Ukrainian army. One tank was hit, but Ukraine is working with the drones. Well, for now, it is early to say whether Russia created the bridgehead in Ivanivka. It could be, it could not be, but the main forces, as we see, is not yet there. It's all the gray area. Russians mainly operate in Ivanivka with their drones. In Novopavlivka, Russia failed miserably, but they now try to expand from Dachna. They took this field with their main forces. Okay. And now let's return to Pokrovsk. The situation here is mainly the same, except heavy Russian vehicle losses. That's it for the last 24 hours. Dobrpilya direction also no changes, but here in Konstantinivka, Ukraine lost one more tank between Konstantinivka and Drushkivka, closer even to Drushkivka. Yeah, this tank was just hidden in the tree line. It's kind of hard to hide something because without the leaves it's almost not possible, and Russians reached this tank with the help of the fiber optic controlled drone. The range of those drones is already close to 50 kilometers. And we have one more video, aviation gliding bomb. This is FAB 3000, is used in Pokrovsk direction. It looks like the road that I showed you yesterday with lots of the vehicle losses, or the way out from Mirnograd. Yeah, for Ukraine it is very complicated because the interception of those bombs is almost not possible. Now let's go to Kupiansk. The situation there for Ukraine is difficult, but Russian military bloggers also complain. They say that supplies are not enough for the army group that landed on the right bank of the river. Russians try to expand their territorial gains, but instead they trap their army group over here. It's very difficult now to send them supplies. Usually drones are doing this. This Russian group is under the constant strikes. Their main goal was to show that Russia controls Kupiansk, but no, it's not like that, even though Putin himself personally said that Kupiansk is been taken by Russia, but it is total fake. Now let's go to the northern part of Kharkiv, Vovchansk. Here Russians attacked a little, but Ukraine stopped their offensive with the help of the drones and infantry forces. Yeah, some of the videos I cannot show to you because it involves Russian infantry. The deep state also gives the update in Serebranka. There Russia moved with their main forces and also advanced towards Siversk. As for the front lines, mainly it's like that. The Hulai-Pole situation is getting worse, and soon we're gonna see the fights for this settlement, probably in the coming few weeks or maybe even days, we'll see. Because the preparation for the Russian army there is very strong. Alright, wait for it. Wow. This is the Russian unsuccessful launch of missile. What a mushroom. A huge one. Wow, big kaboom. Nice. This is the rocket fuel, I guess. The unsuccessful launch of unknown missile, by the time I'm recording this video it is unknown, happened not far away from Orenburg. From the video we saw that missile lifted off and collapsed right in the air, plunging down, hitting the ground, creating this beautiful mushroom. Here's the photo without watermark from another source. Just the usual day in Russia. Also, the main launching spot of the Russian commercial spacecraft was ruined yesterday. After missile liftoff, the construction was drained down, you may see it here, flushed down as into the toilet. Here we have it, the construction went down, so Russians are not capable to lift missiles into the space any longer. Yeah, this part of the construction is totally absent and just those arms are okay. Here's the 3D model of it, and this is the picture from inside. So for unknown period of time, Russia left without piloted missions to International Space Station. So this is before, then this toilet was okay, and this is today, then the toilet is totally clogged with the part of the construction. By the way, Russia is launching the same missiles as were developed in USSR 70 years ago already by Ukrainian designer Korolov. No upgrade, no update, just the Soviet heritage that is still working. Oh, a new drone video published by Ukrainian military intelligence. This is Buk air defense system. It was hit on occupied territory. Russian soldiers are running away. And what is this? This looks like Tor. Yeah, looks like Tor radar. Is it? Yes, Tor M2. Awesome. Russia is losing its air defense. Russia itself is big, so they require lots of the air defense capabilities, but they also started the war against Ukraine, so they need those tools also on the front lines or close to the front lines to back up their army. But they cannot do it. That's why we see the strikes deep inside Russia. That's why we see the strikes on Russian positions using Ukrainian drones. The lack of the air defense, especially on the front lines, is one of the biggest problems out there for Russians. And we know that they are unable to compensate that loss with their aviation because it's also quite risky to use aviation in Ukrainian airspace. It seems like Russians find out the tool of how to deal with anti-drone nets covering supply lines. You see, they're dropping termite right on top, burning those nets almost completely. Well, probably the only variant is to make those nets from metal, but I think it's not possible. It's not the first time the termite drones are used on the front lines. At first, Ukraine discovered these capabilities, but now you see Russia also into it, and it could be kind of effective here. And now let's go to some of the political news around Ukraine because they're also very important. Alright, we have some breaking news published by Telegraph roughly 1 hour ago. Trump hands Putin Ukraine's occupied territories. Wow, so Trump is up to recognize Crimea and all of the occupied territories of Ukraine as the Russian ones officially, and with that proposition, Witko flies to Moscow the next week. So is it a treason of the democratic values? Of course it is, but Trump doesn't care. Inside his soul, Trump is just like Putin. He just cannot allow a full special military operation. For now. But we know his attitude towards Canada, Greenland, Panama. He doesn't recognize the international law, all of the borders of the countries, even the countries who are allies for the United States of America. Well, if the United States recognize the occupied territory as Russian ones, it means the legitimization of the aggressor, and from the legislation perspective, it also might be read as accompanying of aggression state, which is now Russia, according to the international rules, regulations. Yes, Russia is the aggressor, and if you recognize what aggressor took, you justify this aggression. So logically here, United States probably will not supply weapons for Ukraine because they support the country who is fighting for the Russian territories. Yeah, according to the United States in this case. Like, what is happening? But for Ukraine, those territories will not be recognized as the Russian ones. It's understandable, as well as for most of the countries around the world. This is just some sort of the crazy game, unhinged, absolutely done or played by Donald Trump, and everything of that is digging down the reputation of the United States of America lower and lower. Donny is a huge disaster for USA and for entire world. But that idiot president is pretty much profitable for Russians. I just don't understand what Donny wants to achieve, pleasing Russia so much. Like, what is he looking for? Because Putin himself says that he is willing to continue the war. That's it. That's what his goal, main one. The United States is preparing to recognize Russia's control of Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian regions as part of Trump's proposed peace deal. Even Chamberlain's deal was better than this one. Trump has sent Witkoff and Kushner to Moscow to deliver offer directly to Putin. Ukraine would not be required to recognize these losses. Of course, who would push Ukraine for that? Idiots. Donny is trading someone's territories for some sort of the deal with Russia. After the Second World War, because of those heavy losses, countries agreed not to look through rebordering. Everyone should recognize the border of its neighbor and so on. So it was a jurisdictional document signed by United Nations. It's the international law which has now been absolutely violated by Russia, by United States of America. With that recognition, Donald Trump just encourages, for example, China to attack Taiwan. It's imminent now that China will attack Taiwan. It's just a question whether the United States will help Taiwan in defense. I guess no. And there was the case with Japan even. Then Japan stated that it is willing to fight alongside with allies to defend Taiwan. And Donny said no to Japan that do not push China too much, because Donny thinks like this some sort of the realtor or businessman. He wants to have this some sort of the tariff deal with China, and he even called to Japan Prime Minister saying, do not push China, do not tell that you are willing to fight with us together. What? Donny is destroying the world order. Well, it's already been destroyed, guys. Today I recorded podcast on my another channel. By the way, it's in the video description right below. You may check out my other channel. I call it a trash one because I record everything I want out there. And I hope today, maximum tomorrow, I'm gonna upload the podcast telling more details about what is happening and how actually democracy is losing it for multiple of the reasons. Unfortunately, we see that, and Donald Trump, he is one of those reasons. Yesterday Putin said that Russia will cease hostiles, then Ukraine troops leave the areas they're now occupying. Ukraine occupying own territory. Okay. And if they don't leave, we will make them. Also, yesterday Putin mentioned that Ukraine is willing to continue the war till the last Ukrainian, and that variant for Russia is okay. Yeah, that's what he said. Russia wants this war to continue, my friends. And Putin again mentioned that Ukrainian government is not a legitimate one. It expired and Zelensky is no one, so with whom should we sign the document? So basically, peace plan will not work, because according to logic, Ukraine and Russia should sign it, but Russia doesn't recognize the signature of Ukraine. So if we listen to Putin, it might look very complicated, but it's just an excuse for Putin to continue the war against Ukraine. Unfortunately, my friends, Russia has more resources and they're capable to gain the ground. Ukraine, with just this limited support, is not able to defend itself fully. And European bureaucrats, they don't understand the scale of the threat, not just for Ukraine, but for entire Europe and maybe for entire world. The Brussels Prime Minister completely bans the deal to confiscate 140 billion of the frozen Russian reserves. Most of those are being held in Brussels banks. He wants to have some sort of the reinsurances that in case Russia goes to court, all of the European Union countries will pay for it. But that court legal procedure may go for decades, and who knows what might happen to Russia. But Ukraine needs that help right now. I'm not saying send money directly to Ukraine. No, invest in European military production. Ukraine already signed the contracts with Swedes for Gripen jets, with France for Rafale. German Rheinmetall also may help a lot with those investments. But no, we're gonna sit on those Russian money, because maybe we have some of the percentage, not maybe, but in this article from Politica, it is 100% correct that Belgium obtains profit from those frozen Russian asserts because they generate taxes, percentage, Belgium takes it. There are billions of euros, and now I understand why those freaking bureaucrats, they don't want to confiscate that amount of the money. As the counter proposal, this prime minister tells that Europe should pay its own money from its own budget, like 40 with something billion dollars the next year, but the rest of the countries do not agree because, you see, we have those money available, Russian freaking money. Russia is an aggressor state, so let's take those and spend. Also, you might recall the case with Norway. Then some of the initiative group there from their, parliament, they wanted to compensate those money in case Russia wins the court. But later on, the financial minister of Norway said no, and that financial minister is the ex-NATO secretary who is freaking fuck. Like, all of those bureaucrats, they're freaking fucks. By the time Ukraine is defending Europe actively, Ukraine obtains just a limited military support, and those bureaucrats, they just fight for the money which are crucially needed Even for Europe itself, like invest in military production, boost it, and share with Ukraine. That is awesome. Do not sit on those money. But no, 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 we're gonna continue to earn on that. And those politician bureaucrats, they don't care. They will take the money and exit to some other country in case of the full-scale war erupts in NATO. They will live their perfect lives. For them, we are no one. And the excuse for this prig, using frozen Russian asserts could derail Ukraine peace deal. There is no peace deal. Freaking fuck. Russia wants to continue. It is not possible. Peace deal is freaking not possible. But no. No, for them, they want to sit on those Russian asserts. Fuck. And yes, I understand that there's corruption scandal now ongoing in Ukraine, and some commenters saying, oh, maybe Ukraine shouldn't obtain those money. As I say to you, invest in your freaking military, give Ukraine weapons. And those money which are spent for other spheres, send your advisors, send your audit to look through it very detailed. And it's good that there is a corruption scandal, actually. It means that Anti-Corruption Bureau is working and no one is immune to it, even President himself or President's friends, including Andriy Yermak, who is like this shadow cardinal of Ukraine. And today there were searches done by NABU in his apartments. We're gonna see where it will lead, but I'm sure that all of the corrupt officials should be prosecuted, like dismissed from their positions at first, prosecuted later, and no one should escape the responsibility, even President himself if he is involved. We'll see in the coming future. For now, there is no evidence of Zelensky's involvement into that. Direct involvement, I mean. His friends? Yes. Yeah, Brussels tells Ukraine convict corrupt officials if you want to join the European Union. It is understandable, but there is no close perspective for Ukraine to join. I think that in the best perspective it's 2030 and there will be always the countries like Hungary or maybe Slovakia who are opposing this decision. Maybe Poland, by the way, will also oppose because money matters and Ukraine will overflow the market with its cheap agricultural products, which is actually good for consumers because they will pay less. But for Poland, their market could be harmed, as they say, if Ukraine joins EU. Well, you always have this kind of the internal clashes out there in this bloc. There is no unity in the European Union, and if there was no Russia as a neighbor, I wouldn't like Ukraine to join EU. It's just my personal opinion, but I do support NATO, European Union. Yes, Ukraine now should join it. Mainly because of Russia. Oh, by the way, Russian puppet Orban met with his master in Kremlin. It's the second visit of Orban to Russia since the start of the full-scale war against Ukraine. Russia against Ukraine. It doesn't really matter. Orban supports Russian narratives, propels them towards European Union. Among European Union, he's like this cancer of EU. Wow, guys, we have some important breaking news. I didn't expect it to happen, but it is happening. After all, Anti-Corruption Bureau works well. In his evening address to people, Zelensky says that Yermak is no longer the head of the president's office. So, well, Yermak is in this list of NABU to be suspected, to be not prosecuted at this point, but to be investigated, let's say, since they search his apartments, his property, and people, they understand that Yermak is out there, he is in those schemes. They even have the name shared already, Alibaba, in those tapes. Andriy Yermak, yeah, this is his corrupt call sign. Well, I haven't listened to his speech yet, but it seems like the notice here that Zelensky resets the office, the president's office, and Yermak is no longer the chief of it. Wow. Yeah, this is Yermak. He's very, very close to Zelensky, maybe the second closest person after Zelensky's wife. They were doing everything together, and Yermak, for now we may say he was like this shadow cardinal of Ukrainian government, then de facto his position was just to be a clerk of the president's office, a head of the president's office, but he got enormous influence on everything, including President Zelensky. Some people call him the real president of Ukraine, but yeah, this rabbit hole is very deep, but we'll see what Nabu may publish on this guy. I'm very happy that he resigned. I was telling about him lots of the times that could be involved in some of the schemes. And Nabu, that's how they were searching his apartments or some offices. I think that they have everything on him, and not only because this Operation Midas, that's the name of the operation, is ongoing for 15 months already. Yeah, freaking finally Zelensky made this choice. He was desperate really to save his team and Yermak, but no, it didn't happen as he wanted. Finally, the justice should be done, and if Yermak is really involved there, of course he should be prosecuted. So yes, I really support the decision, and maybe we're one step closer to Ukrainian army reform. Yes, it's gonna be interesting to see what might happen in the nearby future. And yeah, some people say, oh, what Nabu is doing now is ruining the reputation of Ukraine, of President Zelensky and so on. Guys, corruption is ruining everything. Do you think it's better to hide everything behind the curtain, pretend that nothing is happening, that there is no corruption? No, and people continue to die because of this corruption on the front lines, civilians, military, because they would not have enough support that they could have obtained if there was no corruption. It is one of the most important things to not just speak about it, but to fight against it. And luckily we have Nabu that is uncovering everything. This is the syndicate that should be vanished, absolutely. Ukraine is not Zelensky and his friends. Ukraine is Ukrainian people, and if his friends are corrupt, they should be jailed. So of course what Nabu does is awesome, it's great, it's outstanding, and it may push Ukrainian government at least to conduct finally some of the reforms, as I tell you, in army especially. But it should be done everywhere, also in the government itself. What is happening is actually, I perceive it as the positive changes. Absolutely great. Those changes will never happen in Russia unless Russian regime itself collapses somehow. As Zelensky says, I want our partners to have no questions about Ukraine. The head of the president's office is resigning. The cabinet deputies must provide the budget, appoint new ministers of energy and justice who were involved in corruption, and also resign, so they should appoint new ones. Yes, SBU will also conduct its analysis and the decision will be made. The army, there are problems. There will be a fair discussion of personnel among brigades distribution. Decisions will be made. Okay, now positive step, of course, especially with Yermak. The president also emphasized that important negotiations with the United States of America will soon take place, and there will be a new delegation from Ukrainian side because Yermak was leading the previous delegation. Now Yermak is no more Ukrainian official. Here I agree with Kate. She wrote about Andriy Yermak. Society demand to get rid of him was very high, and this is good news, although it should have been done much earlier to avoid serious reputational damage. Yeah, I agree, it should have been done long time ago. Just 8 hours ago I retweeted this page. Unelected and lacking popular support, President Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff has amassed level of power rarely seen in modern Ukraine. Now he faces a push to finally leave. 8 hours or maybe even less, and he left. Nice, fantastic news, guys, and thank you guys for your awesome support for making my job possible. Every day I publish those videos, and you may support me on Patreon, the link for it right in the video description below, or membership of the channel. The membership, you just press button join somewhere over here. Without your support, my job would not be possible. So thank you so much for it. If you don't have the opportunity to support me in that way, you may just press your like to the video and also subscribe for the channel. That is how you help to propel this video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much for it too. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.